I've been studying tarot for more than 10 years and reading to the public for more than 5. I've done a lot of work in the animation world, in the tech world, writing, a little bit of everything, but tarot has always been there as a kind of centerpiece for all of my interests. I love visual storytelling, words and pictures. I see storytelling as a healing art, and I think a tarot reading is able to provide a healing of the story that we carry around about who we are and what we're doing with our lives. That story has a shape, it has a structure, and the cards mimic that structure. And you lay the cards down and they reflect your life story back to you. So when you're moving the cards around the table, you're moving the thoughts and feelings around and your impressions of them within you. So it's never really about predicting the future, despite what some people might suggest. Tarot is always about that act of reflection. It's only reflecting the present moment. You can't predict whether you're going to meet a blonde-haired, 6-foot-tall lover next week. Some people might have some gift that gives that kind of clairvoyance, but for me, it's all about the cards. It's a really powerful form of self-investigation. So to start off with some videos that I wanted to work on, I wanted to do a unboxing and first impressions of the deck that is made by Joe Sparrow, who is a fantastic illustrator based out of the UK. I found him on Twitter, just following a lot of illustration animation people, and his work really stood out. And I saw he was making a tarot deck, and I couldn't resist. So I ordered it. It came from the UK. This is from the Royal Mail. I had to fix my camera there for a second. Oh, this is cool. I love this box. It's got this illustration on the front, and then look at this typesetting on the back. I freaking love that. Law under love. This guy did his homework. Some interesting writing on the sides. I love he gives the classic Roman date on those sides. Let's open her up. Okay. Okay, this is the back. Very nice geometric design. And we got a couple of extra cards here. It's the view from the cover and the back, so it's like the box art is its own cards, which is cool because I dig the box art. Very impressed so far. Here we got the Fool. Looks like they're packed in order, as most tarot decks are. That's a beautiful looking Fool. I love the sort of video gamey, cartoony nature of Joe's art. This is freaking great. The Fool really represents this divine willingness to jump into the unknown. You can see this character is falling off the cliff. This is the classic imagery of the Fool. I like the way he's got the cliff breaking away, almost to suggest that it's as much a choice that the archetype of the Fool is making as much as it is the something that the world is doing to them. Now, a lot of people use the imagery that comes from originally tarot decks of the Italian Renaissance, such as the Tower, and those were reinterpreted by A.E. Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith for the Rider-Waite deck, which is the most popular depiction that's been put out, and most decks that come out since then have been influenced in some degree by those decks. This is a really nice magician. I love that it's interesting the way he's using the 3 elements of the sword, Pentacles, and Cups as a triple element that he's controlling, and then the wand is in his hand tracing the infinity symbol. And the as above, so below imagery is definitely prevalent, reaching above and then managing the elements below. I like the stacks of books. That's a nice touch. I'm not going to go through every card on here, but I do want to give my impressions. I noticed he doesn't use the text labels for the bottom. Many decks will say that this is the High Priestess, but this way gives more room for the art, and he must be using the classical ordering here because, well, we'll see what order he's using, because some of the more popular decks disagree on placements of stuff like Justice and Strength. Different deck makers have moved it around different places. I like what I'm seeing so far. Here's the Empress. Very nice. I love her wheat stalk. It's for the Emperor. It's a pretty intense looking Emperor. This is cute. The Hierophant. I like that he's managing these 3 keys. These Hierophant's all about ancient knowledge, and his original name was the Pope, so Joe seems to have leaned into that here. And knowledge and the wisdom of those who came before being the key to the future. This is a really nice Lovers. I'll go through the majors, and then I'll quickly flip through the minors to give some impressions. This is a really lovely Lovers card, because what it's depicting is this moment of that first realization that there's an attraction between 2 people. I'm a big fan of any card that is less like a symbolic diorama with people pointing to symbolic things and more an evocative scene. Usually you see this in minor arcana, but this being the major, there's a real sweetness to it. Normally the Lovers cards are usually like this epic, like huge thing, but this is a very small, intimate moment between 2 people, and that first touch, that first glance, that first knowing, all of the power of love is right there in that moment. Just like the whole universe history exists in a single moment, all of love's power exists in that single moment of first contact. And you can see the fireflies weaving their fate together in the background. It's a really nice card. This is fun. The Chariot as a rocket. I love this sort of, he seems to be bouncing back and forth between heavy esoteric symbolism and really out there imagery, but then really grounded imagery in the modern world. It's a really fun chariot. I love the expression on the pilot there. Next we've got, looks like Justice is 8 in this deck. So Justice is fairly straightforward. So you're usually going to see the classic weights and the Sword of Justice and Justice being blind. This is really interesting in that you can see the hand is grasping the bar, the fulcrum that holds the weights, and you can't see the other holder. I'm sure there's very official terms for the parts of a scale that are evading me right now, but the way that it's hanging down the middle of this person's body, and the fact that she's not holding it here to let the scales fall up and down, she's holding the balance. These scales will always stay even, and that's Justice's job. So you can already tell that there's a lot of thinking that went into this. Honestly, a lot of illustrators will tackle the tarot as like a cool project that gives them a checklist. When you're an illustrator, you really love, like, oh, I'm going to draw my interpretation of all 150 Pokemon, and you get to make a nice list, and it's very clear when you are making progress. And I think a lot of illustrators will try to do that with the tarot, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's just just 78 illustrations or 22 illustrations, not that big of a deal, but it can be so much more than that. What you can, and I can always tell when a deck is just trying to make some pretty pictures with vague themes that they just took a look at a few other decks and read a couple of descriptions. And then people who are really doing their homework, really investigating the power of symbolism and putting their own spin on it. I love this hermit. The guy is playing video games while everyone else is in the surrounding apartments. That's really good. Let's see. Wheel of Fortune. This is interesting because he's embodying the archetypes, but he's not labeling them. So this clearly isn't a Wheel of Fortune, but it's the 10, which is the standard placement of the Wheel of Fortune, but it's someone rolling the dice. It's the power of the unknown, that we take a chance on seemingly random events. So the Wheel of Fortune is that process of putting it all on the line for taking that risk. And tarot, the more you study it, the more you have to get real about your belief of, is there such a thing as coincidence, because it will test that belief either way. This is a really nice strength, super intense monster, and then the human spirit, not afraid in the face of it. To me, strength always represents our animal selves. It's our animal body, our animal urges and hungers, and what part of us keeps that in check. What is the extra bit that tames the animal? Some people say that we're half angel, half monkey, or half alien, half monkey. Interesting how aliens and angels are often interchangeable, but the point is, this card, you'll hardly ever see it as just the beast. There's always the human element to tame the beast or to balance it out in some way. So it articulates that relationship we have with our own animal body. This is a nice hanged man. Interesting abstract background. You can see the smile on the hanged man's face to show that he knows exactly what he's doing. Anyone back in the day when tarot was first coming out, they would have known immediately that's, oh, it's depicting a traitor, because if you were a traitor to the state or to whoever, and you were officially punished, your official punishment was to be hung in the public square by one leg. So certain imagery in the tarot can seem very mysterious, but actually has very everyday origins. Not to say that the hanged man doesn't have a lot of mystery and a lot of depth to it when you really start applying your own symbolic language to it and playing with the possibilities. Because what I see with the hanged man is becoming a traitor to your previous worldview. It's almost like a getting unplugged from the Matrix moment, where you turn your world upside down and everything that you thought you knew was wrong, up is down, black is white. Oh, this is a gorgeous death. This is one of my favorites so far. I really like that. Interesting three-circle, almost molecule shapes, like a water molecule, washing away all of the dross of human evolution. Death is really about, to me, it's about this automatic process of evolution. We grow and shed identity and personality like snake skins. We're always growing, always evolving. Whoever you think you are right now, that person's going to die so that you can become a new person. Whoever you used to be 10 years ago, that person died so that you could be who you are today. So we're always going through this growth and shedding death process. This is a really fun Temperance. I love her wings and the sparkles. She's got one eye open, just kind of eyeballing the balance between these elements. It's really fun. I love how some of these are super epic, and then some of them are just in like a top and a pair of pants. This is a super intense devil. There's a lot going on here. The three heads, the wings, the crown, the chains, the devil all the way down at the depths of the human world. This is a gorgeous deck. I'm gonna try using this in some readings for some people. This is an interesting tower. Normally, oh, it's an electrical tower. You can see the wires. That's really fun, and the winds blowing the leaves around. I think the leaves are meant to be a clue to the fact that it's an electrical tower. Otherwise, it would seem a bit more purely abstract. But tower to me represents the efforts we make to have life make sense and be solid and predictable, to build these theories, to build civilization, to build systems and institutions that we want to say, this, let's just keep it like this and then we'll be fine, when life doesn't really work that way. Anytime you build that tower of certainty, forces out there in the world will knock it down and force you to start again. You say you give up who you are and put everything that you are into this tower, and life will say, oh, you think everything that you are is wrapped up in this tower? How about I knock that tower away? Who are you now? So I think there's an interesting industrial civilization angle going on with this electrical tower as the tower. Electricity really being the thing that kicked modern history into high gear. And modern history is its own kind of Tower of Babel that we're constructing. And maybe the winds are meant to suggest that the wind will erode away whatever tower we create. Because normally it's a violent imagery of the tower being destroyed by the wrath of God knocking us down for our hubris, which is very, of course, biblical reference. This one's a little more subtle. It's an interesting interpretation of justice. Oh, here we go. There's some interesting stuff going on here. Here's the star. And that's the tower in the wreckage. So it's a shooting star. Wait. Star, sun. Oh, yeah. So it's definitely meant to be the same tower in the previous, and there's a bit of a similar color scheme, so you can almost imagine these as two sequential panels. The world is built to be this dark monolith that goes against the elegance of nature. There are no straight lines in nature. And then this star, in the crumbling of civilization, humanity still has hope. There's still a greater mystery beyond all worldly affairs that gives us hope. So I can totally see that the act of the destroying of the tower happens between these two panels. So here's the tower of civilization built, and then it crumbles in the same way that the tower is struck down in the imagery of other cards. But then instead of showing that moment, we show a before and after. I don't think I've seen anyone connect the tower and the star in this way. That's really fascinating. It's really gorgeous stuff. I love the line quality that he used on this. Each line has a real fuzziness. It's not, there's no perfect sort of really sharp, angular stuff. There's a real softness to it. Oh boy, there's so many cards. I might do just the majors, and then I might do another video later when I go, oh boy. Talk about first impressions and reactions. There's some good stuff in here. I mean, I'll do a little flip through so you can see what I see towards the end. So here's the moon. This is a very, you can see a lot of ukiyo-e influence on this one. The branches and the reflection of the moon. It's interesting eye in the water. It looks like the drop onto the surface of the water reflecting the moon, and then something watching from the deep. Moon represents the unconscious and the power of dreams and intuition, this wordless depth of human life. So I think there's some reflecting on the water, and then this is very much the abyss gazing back, as it were. I'm really happy that that he made a goofy sun, because the sun is kind of almost like just a raging ball of positivity. And with that kind of positivity and optimism and innocence, often it's got this charming kind of dopey quality. SpongeBob SquarePants probably embodies the sun to a great degree. Although I say that because my found card deck has, I chose a SpongeBob card as the sun, so I'll do another video about my deck that I've constructed by finding playing cards and trading cards on the sidewalk for 10 years some other time. But sun really represents all that's good in life. So bright, sunny, beautiful day, gardens of flowers, just total unambiguous goodness of life. The sun is really the keeper of that, to make sure we don't forget that life is primarily to be enjoyed. So, Last Judgment, or just Judgment, another explicitly biblical card in the tarot tradition. There's the sense of God taking up the saved and casting out the sinners. The sun's going down in the background, and there's a character here coming out of the grave, and the ghosts are being called up by the heralding angel. I love the minimalistic horn there. This is a really, really fun design for this deck. And to me, Last Judgment represents the more active way to evolve compared to the passive way to evolve depicted in Death. Oh, this is a cool world. Here's this character standing on an Ouroboros. I love having that imagery for the world, just holding it all in the balance. Ouroboros represents the world curling in on itself and the beginning meeting the end to form a Mobius strip that has no beginning and no end. It's just one continuum that if you search for the beginning and the end, you'll always just end up finding more territory, because it loops in on itself. And you can see the hand of creation coming in here, because here's what is very obviously a Wacom pen. Mine is the broke-ass replacement version, but this is the definitely, obviously, the profile of a Wacom pen with the rocker button and the shape of the nib. That's really fun to get a direct shout out to the author's own identity as a digital artist in the world. So he's kind of inserting himself as God in this card. Wands. I'll just do a bit of reaction here. Oh boy. Yeah. This guy really did his homework. I'm gonna have to do a whole separate video just for these. This is Seven of Wands, fighting off the adversity. I'll kind of I'll go back from the beginning, and I won't say as much about each card, but I'll give you a look. It's One of Wands, Two of Wands, a lot going on in these cards. I could do 10 minutes on each card, I'm sure. You can never shut me up when it comes to tarot, so I'll definitely use this deck for more videos that I do, getting into the specific meaning of each card. This is intense. I've never seen an Eight of Wands quite like that. It's a lot of great... You can tell Joe plays a lot of video games, which is very endearing. There's a very modern, playful, rooted in our lived experience kind of quality to this deck. Anyone who loves cartoons and video games, and especially on the indie side, if you play a lot of those short indie games that are really charming and endearing, and you play mostly for the art style or some clever little gameplay thing, definitely the sort of aesthetic reflected here, and the mindset. There's a lot of sort of video game tropes. Some of these cards are very Zelda. Love this Knight. Oh, this Queen of Wands is perfect. The ultimate witch with the black cat and everything. That's really nice. Oh, here's the King of Wands. Pretty intense. Looks kind of like the Ice King from Adventure Time. He's got the beard as his whole head. Oh, man. That is a really nice Ace of Cups. This is wild. I love this. The Two of Cups, two people meeting in the middle and creating this power. Two of Cups is all about the strength that unlocks when two people truly meet as equals. Three of Wands, all about celebration. Oh, Three of Cups, sorry. Four of Cups. This card is often interpreted as breakup energy, this feeling of life keeps throwing new people at you and you don't know how you feel about them, and people come into and out of your life. I think there's a bit of self-talk and meditation angle that he chose for his interpretation of Four of Cups, sort of sitting in meditation, and no matter how often you meditate, there's always going to be voices creeping in. So it's a sort of emotional balance and the despair that can come from heartbreak. I love that grid receding into the background. It's just gorgeous. I hope he's going to do prints of these, because some of these would look great blown up. Six of Cups, really lovely plant person. Seven of Cups, it's kind of deceptive cup and ball game going on. And ooh, this is good, because traditionally in the Rider-Waite Seven of Cups, it's someone being distracted from their true path to find their true self by all of the distractions of life on this planet. Do you want to chase fame? Do you want to chase riches? Do you want a big house? Do you want to be a great lover? These are all things that distract you from the mission of self-actualization. So you can imagine the forces of this world as this kind of trickster who he's saying, hey, what's your true purpose? Is it under this cup? Is it under this cup? Like, where, find the diamond, find the jewel in the lotus, but I'm going to hide it under a bunch of lotuses. Eight of Cups, pretty intense imagery going on here. Nine of Cups, this is wild. Kind of snail trumpet, dream figures. He really went into his own world with some of these. That's the best part about tarot, is there's no rules, there's no universal agreement, nor should there be, of this card means that, and it only means that. It's really a language technique. Just as there are so many different languages around the world, every tarot deck is like its own language, and some decks are as similar as Latin languages like Spanish and Italian and Portuguese, French and English. There's a lot of overlap, a lot of similar words, and you can kind of pick up on one easier having known the other. A lot of decks are like that, but some decks are as different as Icelandic and Chinese, but you can express the whole enchilada of human experience in Icelandic as much as you can in Chinese. Neither are better or worse than the others. Neither are the true way to express ideas, but they all get the job done of expressing ideas. That's why it's okay that every deck is different, and that's why there are no rules. Really lovely Page of Cups, walking the tightrope on the emotional intensity. It's an interesting new interpretation of the fish that appears in some other decks. I'm loving the there's the sea. I know they went with Page, and normally this is Knight, but it's labeled with a C instead of a K. So I'm curious to know what the C is meant to represent. But again, every deck does it differently. Some use Princess instead of Page, and so on. This is a really wild Queen of Cups. Super intense. Oh, I love this King of Cups. Being able to weather the emotional storms with a stoic strength. That's a good one. Whoa. That is a really wild One of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Discs, whatever you want to call it. It's like pure physical strength erupting out of the earth. I love that. Two of Pentacles, Two of Discs, Two of Spheres, maybe. Giving and taking, day and night. Loving the duality of the imagery here. What else we got? Three of Pentacles, architecture, collaboration, finding balance between elements in order to build something truly great. Four of Discs, that's interesting. There's a lot of decks use Four of Discs to refer to security and holding the physical aspects of your life in balance. Some interesting, not quite gluttonous, but very satisfied imagery here. Satisfied with your place in the physical world. Five of Pentacles, classic image of the beggars walking past an opulent church. Here's probably a little orphan child looking at a candy store. Five of Pentacles can really be about lack and going without, and what it means to be poor and to be to witness the inequality in the world. Six of Pentacles. I always love the cards that take the pentacles and make them fruits on the tree. Oh, this is fun. Seven of Pentacles, with the technique that a lot of especially wineries and different farms, they hang old CDs on the lines for their plants, and the reflections when the sun catches the CD, it's this bright flash, and that normally scares away birds that would otherwise come and eat the seeds or the grapes or what have you. A lot going on in these imageries. It's all very carefully considered, and I love when you can tell that. Eight of Discs, turning them into gears. I love the willingness to make each one different, not feeling like it needs to be the same looking cups in each one. It's a gorgeous Nine of Pentacles. I feel like I want to see an animated feature film in Joe's style. Tree of Life from the Kabbalah shows up in the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. You gotta call it the Waite-Smith now. I've been trying to champion that. I gotta correct myself sometimes even. Tree of Life in the Kabbalah and Tarot sort of have similar backstories in that they're esoteric systems with uncertain origins that people can put a lot of attributions to that weren't necessarily there when they were created, but they've become useful tools for understanding humanity and understanding consciousness. I could do a whole video on how people interpret correlations between tarot and other systems. Page of Discs, this is wild, kind of occult rituals going on, love that. The Knight, or maybe it's a Cavalier, that's it's a pretty obscure, it's a deep pull if you're gonna call the Knights Cavaliers, but it would be appropriate. I think that's, I've got my elemental symbols off, so I'm not gonna embarrass myself and say which one it is. It's most likely Earth, since that's the element represented by Pentacles. It's a great Knight. Queen of Pentacles, loving the bunnies. King of Pentacles, this is wild. He's hanging upside down. Not sure. Oh, he's like a bat. It's like bat wings in his cave with all of his money. A lot going on there. One of Swords as a guillotine is bonkers. That's really fun. Two of Swords as a pair of scissors. There's a lot of negative imagery in the suit of swords because it represents the mind, and oftentimes the way the mind can be our own worst enemy, especially when the mind turns against the heart, as depicted in the Three of Swords. I love the symmetry of the fingers. There's a lot of fun design choices here. This is fun, the barehanded sword catch for the Four of Swords. And that's so cool, the way the trails, very comic book cartoony style, is the actual 4 numbers for the 4 swords. And then the character catching it deftly. The kind of stoic meditation represented by the Four of Swords. Damn. That's an intense card. 5 of Swords with this almost Iron Giant, Evil Empire lightsaber situation going on. 6 of Swords, taking on some of the classic imagery from the Waite-Smith deck. A character sort of packing up all that they know and heading off into the unknown. A lot going on there. 7 of Swords, a lot of nature imagery, all these leaves coming out. That's very interesting. A lot of curious choices here. I'd love to interview Joe, although maybe usually when an artist tries to explain why they made certain choices that they did, it hurts the piece. That's why David Lynch never explains any of the mysteries in his films. This is a great 9 of Swords. Really shows the adding up of thoughts and restless energy, and using the sitting up in the middle of the night imagery from the Waite-Smith. But really abstract is this meant to be count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, each one with a full zigzag. So it's still quantified, but very abstracted. 10 of Swords as a dissection. It's perfect. I usually use a sort of snake shedding its skin analogy for the 10 of Swords. So a frog getting pulled open to see what it's really made of. It's very on point. Page of Swords, love it. The Squire polishing, and the dedication you can see here of almost similar to the 8 of Pentacles in the Waite-Smith, the sort of racking up attempts and arriving at the perfect sword. Love that. Knight of Swords, very intense. So yeah, the elemental symbol on each of the mounts from the knights, that's a very nice touch. Some fun bug imagery. That's a beautiful Queen of Swords. I love that. That's really nice. And the King of Swords, I always say King of Swords is like a politician or a judge, and Joe really ran with a similar interpretation here. That's really fun. King of Swords is someone who really uses words carefully and accurately in order to convey vital truths for the masses. And a mystery card. I knew that there was going to be a mystery card. I think I saw a photo of it on Twitter, and it's a mystery. That's what it's there for, is to provoke possibility. I'm very curious to see how I would handle it if this came up in a reading. Probably going to have to do a lot of readings for myself in order to feel confident to do it for someone else. But this video has gone longer than I honestly thought it would, so I'll end it there for now. But this was fun. Probably going to do some more videos, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Maybe I'll do more deck reviews. I'll definitely do some in-depth card stuff. I might do some live stuff to answer people's questions about tarot and what it is and what it's good for. But for now, I'll be signing off, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.